The glass doors of Hartwell Dynamics' executive suite hissed open as I stepped inside, the muted tap of my heels echoing against the polished stone floor. No one looked up. They never did. To them, I was just Lena Caldwell, the late founder's 32-year-old stepdaughter, the quiet one who dabbled in tech startups while her cousin Ethan chaired the board. Decaf oat latte, Lena, Ethan said without lifting his eyes from the merger documents. Extra hot this time, please. I smoothed the sleeve of my navy Smythe blazer, took a breath, and walked to the end of the long table. Actually, I'm here for the board meeting, I said, opening my laptop. My Aunt Vivian turned toward me, blinking. Sweetheart, this is a strategic governance session, not really your area. No confusion, I replied calmly. As the majority shareholder, I have full rights to attend. The room shifted. Ethan's pen paused mid-sentence. That's not possible. My father's trust holds 52% of the company. Held, I corrected, projecting a PDF onto the conference monitor. It was a notarized share acquisition agreement, dated 9 months ago. While Ethan was burning through quarterly forecasts, I was acquiring stake, quietly, through Caldwell Capital. The silence broke. You must be kidding. Vivian, did you know about this? This is absurd. My phone lit up. Cousin Dan, wait, are you serious? Uncle Rob, where did you even get that kind of money? Ethan's assistant, should I be worried? I cleared my throat. For those just catching up, I bought out the dormant shares you all ignored, using profits from the platforms you laughed off as apps for bored moms. Ethan stood, jaw tight. You don't get to just waltz in and take over. Actually, I said, voice even, Section 7.2 of Hartwell's charter gives majority shareholders the right to call a special board vote and, if needed, remove ineffective leadership immediately. I looked around. Shall I keep quoting bylaws, or would you prefer I call the vote? Vivian's fingers trembled as she reached for her glass. Lena, if this is about us asking you to organize lunch for the last few meetings, this is about the $300 million 0 cents in losses Ethan buried in false reports, I interrupted, projecting a second set of documents onto the screen. And the shell corporations he used to mask failed acquisitions. A hush swept the room. And while he played CEO in overpriced suits, our valuation plummeted by 40%. Ethan's face turned pale. How did you get the internal numbers? I didn't let him finish. Amazing what people say around the coffee girl, I said, especially when they forget she has a dual MBA from MIT and Wharton. They left laptops open, whispered in corners, dropped files like I wasn't even there. My Uncle Rob, who'd once laughed at my pitch deck, sat forward. Lena, those are serious accusations. Not accusations, I said, calmly clicking through a timeline of wire transfers and fake subsidiaries. Documented facts, ones the SEC and shareholders will be very interested in. I tapped my phone. Security, main conference room. Please escort in the auditors. Ethan lunged toward his MacBook, but I was already prepared. Remote access is shut down. Admin credentials revoked. I did it this morning. You can't do this, he shouted. I'm the CEO. Where? I said, opening one last document. A signed consent form from the board. They've called for a vote, but considering the investigation, your next title might be defendant. My Aunt Vivian stood, clearly shaken. Now wait a minute, young lady. No, I said sharply. You wait. I served coffee and ordered lunch while Ethan wrecked this company. You thought I was just polite. What I was present, in every meeting, every hallway chat, every slipped comment. I took notes while you laughed off my software company. I logged details while you ignored the numbers. The room was dead silent. And while I fetched your almond croissants, I added, I was building this case. Vivian's hand trembled as she reached for her Hermes clutch. I'm calling our lawyers, she said. No need, I replied with a smile. As the conference room doors opened, the forensic accountants walked in, followed by 2 agents from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Though not the lawyers you're imagining, I added smoothly. Yours are currently preoccupied with SEC investigators asking about their role in Ethan's financial sleight of hand. The security team stepped into the room, followed by a group of sharp-eyed professionals in tailored suits carrying briefcases and sealed folders. The lead agent nodded at me. "Miss Caldwell, we're ready to begin." Ethan's face drained of color. "You're working with the SEC?" "Have been for months," I confirmed. "Those weekend charity galas I hosted, great cover for off-record meetings with regulators." "You all assumed I was playing hostess," I added, as my phone buzzed with messages. "Cousin Melissa, what's going on?" "Uncle David, the SEC? You're joking." "And Helena, our stock. Lena, is it safe?" I raised my voice just enough for the room to hear. "Your shares are intact, or what's left of them, thanks to Ethan's games. But I've developed a recovery plan, one that doesn't involve shell companies or fantasy accounting." The forensic accountants unpacked laptops and scanners as security began collecting devices from the board table. "This is insane," my Uncle Robert muttered. "Lena, we're family." "Family?" I gave a hollow laugh. "Like when you made me refill coffee for my 22-year-old cousin during meetings? Or when Ethan said I should stick to HR because finance is too cutthroat for women?" Another ping, a headline. "Breaking. Hartwell Dynamics under SEC probe. Executive overhaul underway." Across the room, Ethan twitched, eyes flicking to his phone. Desperately trying to erase evidence, too late. "I already have encrypted backups of everything," I said. "Now let's review the last 3 years." I projected the next file. Project Larkspur. $100 million, 0 cents investment. Supposedly in a biotech startup. Except the company doesn't exist. The funds? Diverted to a trust in the Caymans. Registered under your name, Ethan. "That was, a legitimate risk," he stammered. "Really?" I turned to the board. "Did any of you approve it? Know about it?" Blank stares. "And then we have the Redmere acquisition. Told the board it costs $50 million, 0 cents. Actual cost?" I clipped. $75 million, 0 cents. Care to explain the $25 million, 0 cents gap? If you've been quietly cheering for Lena from the corner of that boardroom, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to the channel and follow her as the truth unravels, the power shifts, and long-buried secrets come to light. Sometimes, the one they underestimated holds all the cards. The $25 million, 0 cents gap had, quite conveniently, vanished into a network of offshore accounts. My father's hands clutched the arms of his leather chair, knuckles pale. "These are serious accusations." "Facts," I corrected, gesturing toward the SEC team. "All documented, all verified. Would you like to review the files I compiled while you all thought I was just arranging lunch orders?" Vivian stood abruptly, her silk blazer suddenly more like brittle armor. "This is nonsense. You can't possibly grasp the complexity of corporate finance. Harvard MBA, summa cum laude." I cut her off, meeting her eyes. "Dual masters in financial forensics and quantitative strategy. You'd know that if you'd ever read my CV instead of assigning me holiday party themes." My phone buzzed again. Breaking news lighting up the screen. Hartwell Dynamics stock suspended amid SEC raid. Sources confirm major executive resignations incoming. Round the cross table, Ethan lunged for his briefcase. "In that case," I said calmly to the investigators, "you'll find files on Project Chimera, yet another doomed investment buried in manipulated figures." "He has a second copy hidden in a false bottom," I added. Ethan stared at me, stunned. How do you know about that?" I gave a small, knowing smile. "You hide papers in there every Tuesday after exec meetings. Amazing what you learn when people treat you like office decor." One of the agents popped the bottom panel. Documents. Just as I said. Ethan slumped into a seat, deflated. "Now then," I said, voice steady. "First motion, acceptance of Ethan Caldwell's resignation, effective immediately." "You can't force me to resign," he muttered, though the fight was gone from his voice. "Actually, I can. Section 10.4 of the Charter. Majority shareholders may remove executives for cause." Would you prefer I list each violation, I added, or jump straight to criminal liability? Security began escorting non-essential personnel out. The board sat still, shocked, hollow-eyed. For those curious about your roles, I continued, the board will be restructured. Those complicit will be retiring, voluntarily or otherwise. To those who merely turned a blind eye, you now have the chance to prove your worth. My father finally spoke. The investors, the major shareholders, have already been briefed, I said, cutting him off. While you mocked my investment club, I built strategic alliances with institutional funds. They're fully backing the leadership transition, I said, tapping the remote again. A new document lit up the screen. A letter of support signed by our largest institutional investors. The very firms Ethan had ignored, brushed off while clinging to control under the family name. They were concerned about performance, I added, but blocked at every turn by Ethan's stonewalling. From the doorway, my assistant leaned in. Miss Caldwell, the press is in the lobby. They're requesting a statement on the SEC raid. Ethan bolted upright. The press? You called the press? No, Ethan, your lies called the press. I just made sure they received the right tip at the right time. I turned to my assistant. Tell them we'll release a full statement in an hour, and make sure they get the preliminary audit findings. Across the table, Vivian's diamond-studded hand trembled as she reached for her purse. This will destroy the Caldwell name. Caldwell name? I let out a quiet laugh. You mean the name used to exclude me from every strategic meeting? The name Ethan hid behind while buying his third villa with company money? The name could use a little fire. My phone buzzed. More incoming messages. Cousin Andrew, what's happening to our shares? Uncle Robert, what about the company legacy? Aunt Linda, you've betrayed us all. Interesting, I said aloud. No one seemed concerned about family when I was making spreadsheets. No one read, or when Ethan cut health coverage while leasing a yacht. One of the forensic accountants approached. Miss Caldwell, initial findings confirm over $400 million, 0 cents in misappropriated funds. Ethan's face turned ashen. My father sat stone still, gripping his chair like it was the last thing keeping him upright. Thank you, I said, accepting the report. Please, ensure the SEC receives digital and hard copies. I turned to the remaining board members, still dazed. Now, shall we review the restructuring plan, or would someone like to defend these numbers first? The boardroom doors opened. Additional directors entered, followed by Mr. Harrison, the chairman, who had secretly backed my investigation for months. He nodded toward me. Miss Caldwell, he announced formally, the board has unanimously voted to appoint you CEO, effective immediately. Ethan slumped, his world unraveling. The board? He croaked. Dad, you're chairman emeritus. Stop this. My father's voice cracked under the weight of what was unfolding. His eyes scanned the financial records, still glowing on the screen, then shifted to the board. The numbers. Is this real? Did you all know? Mr. Harrison stepped forward, calm and unapologetic. We've been watching Lena's progress for years, he said. While Ethan was burying losses, she was quietly building a name for herself in the financial world under her professional name. Professional name? Vivian's fingers curled around the handles of her Hermes bag. What professional name? I smiled. Alina Ward. The room froze. Yes, I continued. Alina Ward. The same Alina Ward who was named Financial Times CEO of the Year last month. The same one Ethan quoted in last week's strategy meeting about disruptive turnaround methods. I looked at him. You even cited my white paper. Funny how that worked out. My mother blinked slowly, whispering, Alina Ward? The one who turned around Falcon Core and Novus Systems? That's me, I said softly, though you might have known that if you'd ever bothered to ask what I actually do. Security approached Ethan. Sir, step away from the terminal. SEC protocols require all executive hardware to be secured immediately. Ethan stood, his voice thin. This is our company. This is the Caldwell legacy. And I'm family too, I reminded him. just the part of the family you refuse to take seriously. The next hour passed in controlled chaos. Forensic teams began their audits. Ethan's executive circle was escorted out, one by one. The board reconvened and voted on rapid structural reforms. Through it all, my family sat in a silent daze, watching the empire they thought was theirs unravel under the weight of truth. My phone buzzed again. Wall Street Journal. Exclusive with the new CEO? Bloomberg. Comment on SEC probe? CNBC live segment before market open? Before wrapping the session, I addressed the room. This company stays in the family, but under responsible leadership, under actual accountability. My mother, voice quiet, asked, "And us? What happens to us?" "You'll retain your shares," I replied, "minus voting rights, until the SEC investigation ends. Dividends will continue, though, let's just say, they'll reflect real numbers now." As Ethan was led out, he turned one last time, bitterness etched into his face. "The coffee runs," he muttered. "We made you do coffee runs." "Yes," I said, settling into the chair that once belonged to Ethan. "And while you were all busy patting each other on the back in this room, I was building a private investment empire that could buy this company 3 times over." "Funny, isn't it?" I added softly. "How things turn out." Through the glass walls, I watched the last of their luxury cars pull away from the building that would soon bear a new name. My phone rang. It was the Forbes editor I'd been quietly collaborating with. "Ready for the cover story?" she asked. "We're thinking, from coffee runs to corner office, how Elena Ward built a billion-dollar empire while serving lattes." I looked around the boardroom, once a stage where I'd been ignored, now fully mine. "Perfect," I said. "But let's shoot the cover photo in the break room, next to the old espresso machine, the one they said I belonged beside." A new alert flashed on my screen. Hartwell Dynamics stock to resume trading under new leadership. Analysts predict 50% jump at open. I smiled, remembering the years of unnoticed observation. All those board meetings spent taking coffee orders while memorizing spreadsheets, recording patterns, and collecting data. They thought they'd sidelined me. Turns out, the best seat in the house was the one behind the coffee cart. They just never saw it coming. "One more thing," I said to my assistant. "Send out a company-wide memo. Subject: First executive order under new management. Body: Effective immediately, the entire break room and janitorial staff receives a pay raise. Because some of the sharpest business lessons start while serving coffee." As the sun dipped below the skyline, I walked into my new corner office, Ethan's old domain. On the sleek glass desk sat a single coffee cup, intentionally placed, a simple reminder of where I started and exactly how far I'd come. Tomorrow morning, the business world would wake up to a very different Hartwell Dynamics. One finally run by the woman they had all dismissed, the coffee girl they never saw coming. If you've ever been underestimated, told to stay in your lane, sit quietly, or fetch the coffee, I want to hear from you. Share your story in the comments, because I see you, I was you. And the truth is, being overlooked doesn't mean you're not capable. It means they haven't recognized your strength yet. But you don't need their recognition to build something powerful. You just need to keep going. If my journey resonated with you, if you felt the quiet burn of being dismissed and still chose to rise, subscribe to this channel. Let's build a space for people who fight in silence and win with dignity. Here's what I've learned. Power doesn't come from yelling the loudest in the room. It comes from knowing who you are, preparing quietly, and waiting for your moment. Don't waste your energy trying to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Channel that energy into your vision, into your plan, into becoming undeniable. And when the moment comes, when the doors finally open, don't just walk in, own the room, just like I did. You've got this, and I'm rooting for you every step of the way.